Right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the time is 5:32. It's July 14th. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees, and I'll call this meeting to order. Roll call, please, Melina.
Trustee Alverson.
Here.
Trustee Wakefield.
Here.
Schnittker.
Here.
Gardner.
Here.
Trustee George.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Harper.
Here.
Mayor Cranker.
And do we have any staff or board revisions to the agenda?
Staff would like to request to add ordinance 2025-11, an emergency ordinance establishing on municipal fire restrictions to the agenda. This would be agenda item 7A. With Jim Donovan, Office of Emergency Management, giving a quick report on regional fires. And I've emailed you all a copy of the ordinance and we'll add it to the Google Drive meeting packet tomorrow.
Any board revisions to the agenda? Do you want us to give under committees? Do you want us to give a brief update on CML?
Oh, yeah, that'd be wonderful.
All right, so under committees. Anything else on the board? No, okay. All right, we're moving on to agenda item 3, public comment. We invite our in-person public commenters to come up. You can introduce yourself. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. And if you're on Zoom and would like to make a public comment, you can click the raise hand button and you'll be promoted to panelist. You'll also have 3 minutes to speak. Do we have in-person public comment?
Melody.
Go ahead, Melody. Yeah.
Hey, everybody, it might scare you that I'm actually here in person. It's good to meet you. You've done a very good job with the town. Would you pass that around? Thank you. I'm here to talk about the Colorado Freedom of Information. It's a place that I donate to, and if you've not noticed before, my big thing is open records. So in May, Gloria made a comment in a meeting that in the retreat, you'd made a certain decision. And even though it was voted on in the May meeting, it got me off center to research it better because I don't think retreats are legal, and I'm right. And I have, from the Freedom of Information people, I have everything that applies. If you have any gathering of 3 or more people, you have to have it posted, you have to have it open, you have to have it on Zoom, whatever you do. And I'm just looking for a change on that. I'm sorry I let it go as long as I did, because I'm usually right on freedom of information stuff. But I thought I'd correct this now because somehow I think that the board members themselves aren't quite grasping this. I've been at meetings in the past when 2 board members have been at the meeting, the third one arrives and leaves because they can't be there because they know they're a quorum. And so recently it all just clicked with me that none of this is happening and I wanted to bring it up. So I hope that you will take a look at everything that Jeffrey Roberts has on his website. I donate to them every year. Freedom of Information, Sunshine Law is very important to me. And I know this is probably a surprise to some of you, but I did want to let you know, and it's Melody Skinner.
Melody? Do we have other in-person public comment? Okay, do we have any public comment on Zoom? Again, if you'd like to make a public comment on you're on Zoom, you can click the raise hand button and we'll promote you to panelist. Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment and we will move on to the consent agenda. Any comments from staff on the consent agenda or question from trustees? I did want to note, I really appreciate putting all the administrative land use stuff on there. Thank you, Lucy. I think it's really helpful just for transparency to know what's being processed, what's happening. So thanks for putting all that in there. Lori, anything you wanted to call out or from the board?
Just our May financials are in there and our May sales tax is in there as well. And a letter of support for the Southwest Colorado Council of Governments for their initiative on doing like a regional housing study instead of individual housing studies.
So the Parks and Rec position's opening then, right?
I will be discussing that in staff reports.
Oh, staff reports, okay, got it.
I noticed, let me find the page where it was. I think on the Mullis revenue. Make sure I'm speaking correctly. I know we raised the rates on Mullis and I think that's been helpful. It looked like the projected revenue was still less than what we budgeted for. Let me find the right page. And I was just curious if that's normal for this time of year, knowing that we are,
Which is May, right?
oh, right, this is May. So we,
Yeah, so this is just
Yeah.
May. If you look back to the year-to-date actuals next to that, you'll see that we're actually about $70,000 over last.
okay,
We messed up.
there we go. Thank you. Oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah.
48, page.
Other questions from the board on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Ron or Tyler, I don't know, pick one. We'll say Tyler. I heard Tyler loud. All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Albertson?
Yes.
Wakefield?
Yes.
Trustee Schnitger?
Yes.
Trustee Gardner?
Yes.
Trustee George?
Yes.
Tim Harper?
Yes.
Mayor Kreinker?
Yes. Great, thanks. Now moving on to staff reports. We have a couple items here, 5A, B, and
Right, so Sarah has submitted her letter of resignation. She did that probably at the very end of June. So just updating you all now on that. Decided to open up the Facilities, Parks and Recreation Director in-house. So we are going through that process right now. Applications are due at the end of this week. And so we'll evaluate from there. At this point. Questions on that process?
No questions. I just wanted to make a shout out to Sarah, thanking her for all of her work for town. She's such an asset to our community and we're going to miss her very much. So thank you, Sarah.
thanks, Amy. Definitely echo that. And did you want to say anything more, Gloria, just on kind of the rationale for opening up internally?
I'm trying to promote from within as much as possible, and I think it's great candidates to promote up and potentially promote, so.
Great. And it saves money.
And it saves a lot of money. All right, and so then on the second report that I have there is our text to report update. So that includes about 26 texts total that we just evaluated and how our system's working. So people can text our number for any kind of issues they have around town. We don't do this for like general public comment. So during the social media posts when our number was out there for trash, we didn't include the comments in there. So if you texted that number, you don't see your comment there. It's more for issues. So we just included all the issues as we're tracking on how fast we can address those issues. So over half the issues were resolved within 2 hours and 85% are completed within 4 hours. So the next day completion
happen. Okay.
All right.
Okay, thanks, Melina. For anybody who is watching on Zoom or tuning in later, it looks like our YouTube and our Zoom cut out for a minute. We were just starting to talk about the text report. We are on agenda item 5B, this staff reports, and Gloria's giving an update on our text to report system and kind of how quickly and what type of issues we're dealing with through that reporting mechanism.
Yeah, so it's allowed us to have like a central location for all of our issues. And really track kind of what the pain points are in our community as far as the issues that we have. So like I was saying, over half of the issues are resolved within 2 hours, 85% are completed within 4 hours, and next day completions are typical for late afternoon texts. We have a range of issues here that you can see. The spreadsheet, this is the spreadsheet we use to track it all, but we have a lot of trash issues in here, as well as, I think I broke it down even further in your packet there. Let me just get to that packet page. Let's see. Yeah, public restrooms, snow removal, shower and water access. Nixle, like a random question about the Nixle report, lost and found, and question on our policies. So I would say the program is a success right now, and we're going to continue it and track and see if there's anything that we can't address right away. We will bring to you all for like a policy change. So.
That's great. Thanks I think this is a great way to have some insight, and hopefully we can continue to get the word out so people know to use it. But it looks like the kinds of things that you would hope people would communicate about and be attended to.
I always appreciate the thank yous.
Yeah.
It was really sweet.
Yeah.
And then the final memo I have in there under staff reports is the trustee retreat and in your goals. It's identified for better direct communication with our community. So I'm going to facilitate a town newsletter to be distributed once a month. In creating this newsletter, I wanted to put parameters around it, a policy. And so you'll find that in your packet, and just wanted to include that for transparency. And then if you had any suggestions or edits to that newsletter policy. This would start in the first week in August.
Great. You managing that? Okay. Just more on your plate.
Let's see how it goes.
Okay.
Gloria and I had a good conversation about potentially for some of it leveraging AI, right? Like I chatted with a community member who had some great suggestions, just said, look, the minutes are hard to digest, the packet's really long. Like even if you could have AI do some better summaries of like, what did we discuss and what was talked about? Like we could make it in a more digestible format. It doesn't have to follow the framework of the formal minutes.
There was at that AI one, like the conference I went to, or the session I went to at the conference, there was a tool that another town is using where it like summarizes the meeting in like a podcast.
Oh, wow.
Which is crazy. It's like people talking. I don't know if we want to get that techie. It was kind of crazy. But it's possible.
We'll try with the old newsletter and go from there.
I think it'd be worthwhile for us to check in with you after a couple issues and
Yeah.
make sure that this is still doable. And if any trustees would like to have a little message,
Yeah.
be great to include some of our voices.
So I did include that, I think mayor's message or trustees message, mayor's or trustee message in there. So.
Awesome. Thank you.
So expect that in your inboxes. Hopefully if I can figure it out.
That's great. Thank you.
And then happy to answer any questions on the staff reports.
No questions.
Any questions from the board, or is there anything on the newsletter format that you would suggest or change or make easier? Anybody have any good ideas?
Written newsletters, it take a while, so that's why I'm asking.
But right now, this month, we've been working on all the formatting, so.
Mhm.
All right.
All right. No other questions? We'll move on to agenda item 6. This is presentations and proclamations. 6A is 2024 financial audit report. Thank you for joining us, both of you.
Look, you want to go
Thank you,
first? You want me to go first?
You can go first and talk
Okay.
about stuff,
Yeah.
talk about the.
Yep. Sounds good. Thank you very much. My name is Jim Hinkle with Hinkle and Company CPAs, and we did the annual audit of the financial statements. We start off by reviewing the city's internal accounting controls, policies and procedures. We're looking for primarily a segregation of duties. Transactions typically take 3 steps: the initiation, the approval, and the recording. And we want to see not one person doing all of those things. We also look at the procedures within the disbursements journal, the payroll journal, the receipts journal activities to make sure that there are no what we call significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in the internal control structure. And a significant deficiency is defined as a design flaw in the system of internal controls that would allow an error to go undetected in the ordinary course of business. And a material weakness would be a significant deficiency that could result in a material misstatement to the financial statements as a whole. And we did not have any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in the internal control structure. That's the answer that you want to do. We then turn our attention to the actual audit of the financial statements. We use what we call substantive testing, which is primarily tested details, which is pretty much what it sounds like. We drill down in the account balances and we look at the underlying transactions and we compare those to source documents such as invoices, cash receipts, contracts, agreements, to ensure that the accounting is done correctly and in accordance with general accepted accounting principles. We also use a fair amount of analytic review procedures where we compare the current year to the prior year, current year to budget, relationships between the balance sheet and the income statement. And if we find relationships that we either don't expect or can't explain, we do more tested details within those areas. The end result of that is the audit report, and your report is technically referred to as an unmodified report. And in layman's term, that's a clean opinion. States that the financial statements have been prepared in accordance with general accepted accounting principles and applied on a basis consistent with the prior year. That's also the answer that you're looking for. So all in all, it was a good audit. We will issue a required communication letter where we are required to communicate if certain events have occurred in the course of the audit. And we have nothing negative to report in that letter. We did not have any disagreements with management. We did not have any difficulties in the course of the audit. And we did not find any errors in the books and records that required adjustment, either those that we would have made if they were large enough or those that we would not have made if they were small enough and we would have just ignored them. So we did not have any errors in the books and records that we were required to be made. All in all, it was very cooperative. We worked very well with Michelle, the organization. We work with her on a number of other audits in towns and cities across the state, and it went all very, very smooth. The draft that you have will be the one that we will issue to you all. We do have to make a couple of modifications in order to file it with the state auditor's office and for you to post on your website. Effective July 1, the state has an ADA requirement that this report has to be readable inside of Adobe. So there's a few formatting changes we have to modify. For example, Adobe Reader does not read a dash for a 0. It has to have a 0. It doesn't read brackets. So we have to have a minus sign in front of any number that is being deducted instead of a bracket number. And there's a few things like that that doesn't change anything with respect to the numbers or the information. It's just merely the formatting that makes the readability within the ADA standards, and we will do that as well. So like the audit report where we start off and we say the town of Silverton, Colorado, parenthesis, the town, doesn't read the parenthesis. So we decided we're going to make a change to say hereinafter referred to as the town, so that when someone actually has it read to them, it reads much cleaner and smoother. But we'll make those changes before the end of the month, and it'll be filed with the state auditor's office on time. And that's the one that we'll have you all put up on your website for the financial transparency requirements. So all in all, though, that the numbers and all will not change, and they are what they are. There's a few things on the MD&A
I
we need
realized as you spoke.
take a look at. It doesn't read colors. So when you have a pie chart, you actually have to have a bubble that says what each piece of the pie chart is, because it can't detect colors yet.
Okay.
So, but otherwise, audit went smooth. We've got good progress, and you'll be able to file on time with the state and within your website. So you'll be met with all of the requirements as far as the timing is concerned. Any questions on the audit? That's the process of the audit. It's the verification process. And then Lorraine's going to talk about the numbers themselves, and I'll hang around and we'll talk about any questions that you all have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I learned something there about the ADA requirements. So someone asked me recently, is it ADA requirement? And I didn't know what
Yeah.
they were referring to. So that
Yeah.
points it. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm glad to be here tonight to go over these financial statements with you. And as I usually say when I start off these presentations, I really do think that safeguarding the assets of the town is one of your most important, if not the most important role that you have as trustees of the town. So knowing what's in your financial statements and feeling satisfied that you've accomplished that, that piece, I think is really important. So I'll walk through these with you. And then if you have more questions afterward, you can follow up, or if you feel like, nope, that satisfies my need for understanding and I can put this on my shelf or in my recycle bin, then go for it. But starting at the beginning, the auditor's letter does come first, and it's that second paragraph there that you're after that Jim referred to as the clean opinion. Everything is within materiality, looking very positive as to what your real financial position is. There's no material misstatements or skews that would make a reader not be able to rely on these financial statements. The MD&A starts on Roman numeral 1, and that's management's discussion and analysis. And I like to point out these financial highlights in case you have any inquiries from neighbors or people you run into that say, oh, I saw your financial statements for the year were being discussed. How is the town doing? Or you can say, well, and you can pull this out and read off a few things. The town of Silverton had a net position of 6.1 million at the end of 2024. The net position of the town decreased by a very small amount, so it's essentially stayed constant during the year. During the year, the town's governmental funds reported combined ending fund balances of over $1.3 million, but this was a decrease of 12% from the prior year's ending governmental balances, due mostly to general fund expenditures exceeding general fund revenues. So that may not be a highlight that you want to tout, but it's a highlight for your understanding of what's going on. And it's an improvement from where you had been in the past, where things were going down at a lower rate. So you've made progress, but don't feel like you're done. So,
Well, and I think that's why this board compelled in our previous 2025 budget approval to pass a balanced budget. That was the impetus for it.
yes, good. The fourth bullet is the general fund decreased its fund balance by 189,000. So that's 17%. It's not a lot of dollars, but when you're talking about relatively small numbers, that's a fairly significant percentage. That's roughly 2 months out of 12, 17% of expenditures. And then the town's water, sewer, and refuse funds stayed steady with a slight decrease. Now, taken as a whole, that's true. The sewer fund didn't look so good. the water fund looked a lot better. And again, you really did take steps to turn the corner and make this start going in the right direction, and it has, but you're not done yet. So keep going with that. The rest of this page and most of the next page talks about the governmental accounting and how you have enterprise funds that are run like a business where they're measuring everything they have, including the pipes in the ground and all the assets they have. And then you have your governmental funds, which are talking about things you have to do in most cases in your general fund, no matter what. And therefore you need a tax base to support that, and you're not selling services or goods and services piece by piece to pay for them. So they're tax based. And they're not measuring the value of the streets or even the value of this building when they look at what the town's worth and how much money, they're looking at how much money is coming in or out, flow of financial resources, so that you can keep operating and keep issuing a building permit when you need to and keep providing the public services and patching holes, et cetera, that you have to do. Page 3 is this little condensed net position. And one of the nice things about this is it shows the 2 years side by side. So the leftmost column that's under the headings is the governmental activities. And that is your general fund and your Mullis Park and your housing authority that aren't really selling goods and services that pay for themselves, that are existing based on taxes. And this net position means what you have amassed over all time, ever since the town became a town. So overall time, by the end of 2023, you had a net position in that second column from the left for governmental activities of 4.5 million. And at the end of 24, that had gone down to 4.4 million. So that slight decrease. For your business type activities, which is water, sewer, and refuse, overall time, again, you drew down from a net position at the end of 23 of 1,000,007 to a net position of 1,697,000. So a small decline from year to year. But down below, it talks about the net position and how it's categorized. And a lot of your net position is in that fifth line up from the bottom, net position in capital assets. So in this schedule, we do show the value of this building and the value of your infrastructure for both the governmental and the business type activities. But you can't spend that unless you decide to sell your streets, which who would buy them? And or your town hall, which you're not going to do. And there's some that's restricted. Most of that is because the revenue source can only be used for certain things, and it only is, so it's restricted. Some is committed based on ideas or, pronouncements that you've kind of passed, but they're not legally restricted. You could change that. And then there's the unrestricted. So in the governmental, you have unrestricted of 636,000. And the fact that 71.5%, that first paragraph under this chart, of your net position is your investment in capital assets, shows that even though that $6 million is a nice number, it's those smaller numbers below that you have to work with. When you go to the next page, there's a condensed statement of changes in net position. And unlike the previous page with the overall time, there's where you are. This is what happened during these individual years. How did you change your net position, either a little bit more or a little bit less during that year? And so this shows for governmental activities at the top, see how it says program revenues? That's meaning you're actually charging someone for what you're providing. And under the governmental, you'll see the biggest number isn't under program revenues, it's under sales and use taxes and property taxes and franchise taxes and other taxes. So you're heavily tax-based in governmental activities. But you do have some big numbers up top with charges for services, and that's really the general fund charging the water, sewer, and refuse fund for the employees and the administration, et cetera. So it's not outside customers, it's just the way that you show your expenses and revenues here. When you go into the business type, you see the big numbers are all up top. And that's where they're supposed to be, charges for services, operating grants and capital grants that you may be getting. And just very little down below from penalties or late fees and things of that sort that are more governmental. So when you go over to the next page, oh, sorry, before I leave this chart, down near the bottom, two things of interest. One is transfers in and out. Fourth line up from the bottom, and it shows that your governmental activities took $106,000 and transferred it to your business type activities, and that was for your sewer fund.
A refuse.
Pardon?
Refuse?
I'm sorry, that was for your refuse fund. So it's not necessarily charging enough to make its way on its own and has to have some of these essentially tax monies sent over to that operation. Other than that, the other item of interest is the third line up from the bottom, and that's the net result year to year, the increase or decrease in net position. So 23 had a decrease of 56,000 in the governmental. 2024 had about half that much. So you are improving, but you don't want negative numbers there. You want some positive numbers. And then same with the business type activities. It had a huge loss in 2023 and a minor loss in 2024. So again, you've made a good progress. Thank you. Thank you for taking to heart what's in these reports.
And is it fair to say, Lorraine, that the difference, especially for the business type activities, is the change in fees that we implemented?
It's safe to say, yes, yeah. And you got a little bit of grants too. Yeah. Very good.
Yeah, but that increase in charges for services, that would be.
That's driving this.
Yes,
Made a big difference.
that's why that charges for services number went up from the prior year.
Yeah.
Page 5 shows these color charts, which we'll have to show differently. But starting at noon is where the first color starts. So that big blue one is the charges for services that's in the legend off to the right. And just going down, it just goes clockwise. The red is the operating grants. So you see for the general fund, how that big purple area is your taxes, sales and use taxes. And then the next one is property taxes, 10.3, and the next one is franchise taxes. So over half is coming from taxes right there in the pie chart. And the schedule below shows what's on that table that we just looked at on page 4, the programs, what their expenditures are versus what their program revenues, where you're charging someone for it. And general government has way more expenses than program revenues. Public safety, you're not even seeing any program revenues make its way into visibility on the chart. Public works, culture and recreation. So these governmental activities need taxes. Next page is 6. And here you have your business type activities. And yes, Leah, you have charges for services that are great big 87%. And then on the what I called the bar chart below, your expenditures and revenues in water were very close to the same and slightly ahead in revenues, which is good. Sewer is still expenditures outpacing those revenues by a good chunk, and same with refuse. So keep going on those as you start your next budget process. These are essential services. These are not luxuries. People need these, have to budget for them and pay them. And that's why these are enterprise operations. We're providing an exacting service and only charging for that, and this is what it costs. The rest of these charts are more information about your general fund, which is the primary one of your governmental funds. And so I'm not going to spend time on that. You can look at it more if you want. But the verbiage on the top of page 8 goes through these 3 enterprise funds, type funds. And if you ever need to refer back to this in writing or talk to someone about this, you might want to earmark this page 8, because it boils down what's in the number charts that we're going to look at in a second, of what the net income was and what happened and how the money got there, et cetera. So I will launch over to those. We're going to skip pages 4 and 5 because that's what was just discussed in the MD&A. We did a condensed version, and here's the broader version. But looking over on page 6 is your general fund by itself. Next to it is a column with all your other funds that don't meet the qualifications to be major funds and appear alone on this page. And you've got the 1,700,000 in assets. And the capital assets aren't shown on this. This is a fund statement. Just those beginning tables show these governmentals with capital assets. But going to page 8 is what you're probably used to looking at during when you make your packets, and like the May financials are in there. And this is showing you your revenues versus your expenditures. So on the general fund, you see 4,050,000 in revenues by category. See your expenditures of 4.1 million. Again, when you budget this year, you want to make it so that those revenues are not just balanced in case you don't get all of them, but more than your expenditures. And so that you can build up your fund balance and have enough in reserve to take care of emergency situations. We talked about that last year, how the smaller you are and the more concentrated your base of taxation is, the more easily it is to be all wiped out by a flood or a tornado or some natural catastrophe. And so you won't get any new revenue for those sources if they're damaged or wiped out, but you still have to provide services, maybe more than in the past during those times of calamity. So you want that ending fund balance to be a real healthy portion of those revenues that you get each year. Because if suddenly they're wiped out and it's going to take FEMA 9 months to get you some money, you still have to pay people to provide the services and do the things that you as a government have to provide, and to help them rebuild, and to have building inspections, and to keep looting from happening, and all the things that you would need to do. You've got to have some money in the bank for that. So you almost have $1 million, and that's nothing to sneeze at, and good going. But don't rest on that laurel, because you do have 4 times that much in annual revenue. So this would get you through about a quarter of the year, 3 months, if needed to be drawn down. Let's go over to page 9. And here's your revenues and expenditures and changes in net position for those proprietary funds, the business types. And page 11, I think I said the wrong number, page 11. Here you've got the revenues, then your operating expenses. Kind of in the middle of the page, it says net operating income or loss. And circle that row. It shows the water fund had a net operating income of $10,000. Again, better than negative, which has been in the past. The sewer was still negative 67, and refuse was still negative almost $100,000. So that's why I'm saying you're not done yet. You want to have operating income because you want to also be able to set some money aside for when you need to replace your infrastructure and when you need to do something that's out of the ordinary. And so this little bit of net income in water isn't sufficient for that. When you get these loans, USDA, et cetera, they're going to want to make sure you have enough income coming in that you can not only pay these expenses you have now, but pay debt service on the loans they're going to give you, which is going to be another expense. So the less, confident they are in your ability to do that, the higher the interest rate is going to be on the money they lend you because you're bigger. Keep going, it will benefit everyone in the long run. Underneath that row, I hope you circled net operating loss. You've got other things that aren't operating. You've got interest expense on existing debt. You've got capital grants and tap fees that come in that help, especially with the future developments for the tap fees. Those together with the operating income or loss gives you your change in the net position during the year. And again, the water fund's net position went up by 37,000, sewer went down by 55, and refuse barely made it into the plus because of the line above it, which is a transfer in.
Mhm.
They didn't earn that money. That was out of your taxes. And this fund, you know, if it has that much money coming from a non-charge service, then it doesn't really qualify as an enterprise fund under Tabor. If you were needing to borrow money for it, you'd have to go to an election. So it loses its enterprise status in Tabor's eyes. We're still going to always account for it as an enterprise to track whether it's making money or losing money. But that's an issue as well.
And kind of highlight what Lorraine is saying is if you look up at that net operating loss income line item,
Mhm.
that refuge, there's no depreciation. So that $96,000 loss, that's all cash loss.
Yeah.
Good
And,
point.
and on sewer fund, even though there's 43,000 in depreciation, your loss is 67, so there's a $23,000, it's a cash loss for the year. So that's real dollars coming in and out, and not really non-cash depreciation or something like that.
Right. And so a different way of saying that is that it directly correlates to the fees that we're charging for those funds are not matching the operating costs of those funds.
The
Exactly.
expenses. Yeah.
Exactly.
And similarly for water, thanks for bringing that up, the depreciation was that 58,000. And that isn't cash out the door.
Mhm.
So on your money in, money out, you were better than 10,000.
Mhm.
But depreciation is there for a reason,
Mm,
so that someday you gotta replace this stuff.
yeah.
And
Not setting aside enough money.
got about what, 5 years left on your plant?
Yeah.
Until it does have to be replaced.
Yeah.
At what point does the refuse fund, you said it's no longer considered an enterprise fund under Tabor? At what point is that where we are putting so much money in? Is there a percentage or what?
10%.
Just 10%? Okay, thank you.
And that is, state and local funds
Okay.
cannot exceed 10%. That does not include federal grants.
Right.
If you got a federal grant.
And those are too common for refuse operations. They're more likely for airports and water and sewer and electric.
Bridges,
Mhm.
things like that, yeah.
Yeah.
And when you say 10%, that's 10% of the total revenues.
Right. That's all I'm gonna talk about there. There's more information on the next page about where the money does go in and out and where it came from. Then you get to the notes and you can look through here if it interests you and it tells you what all these terms are and what all your funds are and describes them and what they're used for and how things are calculated. Page 16 talks about your capital assets and how depreciation schedules are for those assets and how many years for the different types of asset. When do you capitalize something at 5,000 or more? Page 18 talks about how the property taxes work in Colorado. So if anyone ever asks you about that, it's in here. Same with the budgets, what the budget laws are and how that pertains. When you get over to page 20, tells you what you're allowed to invest in. As a statutory town, these are the items, and you are using the local government investment pool, Color Trust, which is very wise in my opinion. They do a very good job of managing money. They pool your money with all of these other cities and towns and I think counties, and get a much better return on your investment for you than you ever could on your own. And they do it without you ever having to think about it. So that's, you know, bigger cities may have an investment department keeping their finger on the pulse of the market, but that's just completely out of the realm of possibility for smaller towns. Capital assets are shown on the next page. And we have a complete schedule of every capital asset that's reflected in these totals here, should you ever need that. And your staff and public works staff review that each year and say, okay, we got rid of this, we disposed of that. Some of it's fully depreciated. They'll see a lot of it is. You've got 10 point that on the right hand side where it says total capital assets being depreciated, right in the middle, there's 10 million. And this is for the governmental, this is your town hall, et cetera. But almost 7 million of it's already depreciated, so these aren't new assets that have a long life. They're, really getting close. And then the next page 22 is your business type activities. And again, you've got capital assets that were worth about 4 million, but you've already depreciated them by over 2.5 million. So they're coming to the end, you know, you gotta be thinking about replacement. They're not at the end, but you gotta think about it. 23 talks about all your long-term debt. You do some lease purchase agreements or lease agreements that are shown here to acquire most of your equipment in the general fund or your governmental funds. And then for these various leases, it shows the debt service to maturity that's still owed on these items. So you have a fair amount of debt. And then business activities is shown on the next page. We currently have the Colorado Water Resources and Power Development Authority. You owe about 200,000 on. And it
Is that the one for, Lori, was that the one for our tank?
yes,
Yeah, thanks.
and it tells a little blurb about that on page 24. So for any of these major debts you have, it tells you when you incurred it, what it was for, what the interest rate is, and it shows how long you have to pay it off. And so you can see what you're facing. But the note payable on page 25 in the middle and on page 24, it shows additions, note payable 78 grand. That's just the tip of the iceberg of what you're going to have when you finish your sewer project. It's what you had received at the end of 2024 in your bridge loan before the USDA comes in and gives you the bond to pay back over many, many years. There's information here about your retirement plans, any intergovernmental agreements that you have, and Tabor amendment is listed a little bit. And that's the extent of the notes. After that, you've got several pages of budgetary information. Because the front of the book didn't have the budgets, it just had the actuals by budget, compared to budget. Starting on page 32 is the combination of those little funds that I said were all in one column up front. Only the general fund was a major fund and got its own column. These other 4 funds are in up front. So pages 32 and 33. If you wanted to mark that up front and so that you could refer to it, if you go back to page 6, where it says other governmental funds, and just maybe write page 32 above that column, that's where the detail is. Similarly, on page 8, mark page 33 above that column, that's where the detail is for those other funds. And I'll talk about one of these in particular, and that's the Housing Authority, which is new. And it does show a negative fund balance at year end. And that's not uncommon for a new fund. You have some startup costs and you haven't gotten the revenues and the charges for services and the things that will happen. So I'm not overly concerned about that. You don't want it to go into the hole so much that it drags too much money out of your general fund to float it while it does its operations. Your other 3 funds, you're mostly gaining money, like those are Conservation Trust Fund, that's a lottery money that comes in. You haven't spent any this year because you're letting it build up so you can really do something with it for a park project in the future. Mullis Lake Park, you have your expenditures, and the cemetery fund is kind of dormant. And then you have these budget to actual here at the end for each of those funds. And then for the water, sewer, and refuse. The water, sewer, and refuse are a little different because they show based on what you have to appropriate budgetary basis as opposed to the full accrual basis that they are shown in the front. So when you go down the water funds actual column, it adds in capital outlay. There wasn't any there, but it doesn't have depreciation. It has the real spending numbers. And so this is what's comes to the budget when the state auditor looks at this report and says, how did you do compared to what you in your budget? And Gloria and I talked today, and page 39, you see a negative, perhaps for the sewer fund. And we haven't talked with Jim about this yet, because we just met this afternoon. There may be something coming back to you about, so it doesn't show a negative. And we'll have to get some clarification on whether this was an expenditure under contributed capital or actually something else. But it looks like there may or may not be a budget issue, depending if that's an expenditure gain versus loss compared to budget. But if there is a negative, we're gonna want you to rectify that with a supplemental budget. Even though it may be a small amount, so that when this report goes to the USDA, and it's a requirement, I'm sure, where they give you that bond, they get them your most recent financial reports, it won't show that you outspent your budget. You want to show, no, we realized it, we did a supplemental and had the money, and that's the way it's going to be.
So that's net income loss before contributed capital. And that's correct. What this shows, if you look at page
Oh, I see. Okay.
39,
Yeah,
what it shows is that you appropriated $440,000 in expenditures. You spent $466,000. So in theory, in a governmental enterprise, you can't spend money that you don't appropriate. Well, you did. And that arguably is against state law, though probably nothing ever happens of it. You see this from time to time. You'll probably get a letter from the state auditor's office that says you're not supposed to do that. What you're supposed to do is toward the end of the year, November, December, look and see what your expenses are going to be and do an amendment to the budget before year end so that you can appropriate those additional expenditures so you don't end up spending more than you appropriated. And you appropriate through approval of the budget or the budget amendments. You can have as many amendments as you want. That there's no limit as far as the number of amendments you have. You're just theoretically supposed to do an amendment to cover the expenditures before year end occurs.
And as you can see, the original budget was there, so we did do an appropriation, but we didn't do it enough.
Just didn't do enough, yeah.
So we did an appropriation for the refuse, for the Silverton Housing Authority, and for the sewer, a supplemental budget. But we didn't account for enough of it.
And the refuge is the same way.
Yeah. So you guys will be seeing a resolution coming back to you all to amend that at the next meeting.
it isn't ideal to do it after the fact, but it's allowed to do a retroactive one. So that's the most, the final item there. I wanted to draw to your attention, but again, here my encouragement echoing in your minds when you look at your budgets and you're tempted to not want to raise those rates again because you just did, and it hurts, that you got to keep on it. And it really should be looked at every single year to make sure you have a responsibility to have healthy funds because you're the ones providing these services.
The other interesting thing that I saw in the MD&A is you actually had an increase in sales tax, $100,000, which is not what I'm seeing in other mountain towns. If you go up along the I-70 corridor, they are seeing a year-over-year decline in sales tax dollars for now about 3 years in a row. The Summit County, Breckenridge, Silverthorne towns, the Winter Parks, even Vale, that whole I-70 corridor has seen a high in 2021 and then a year-over-year decline for the last 3 years, and they're projecting continual declines in those sales tax numbers. You all actually had $100,000 increase on $1.7 million, which is a completely different trend than what we've been seeing in some of these other mountain towns up farther up north. So it's kind of interesting to see that difference here I don't know what Telluride's done or Durango or some of these other towns, maybe Uray on the other side of the pass. But it's really encouraging to see those stronger sales tax numbers on the government side.
And kudos to your vendors, your shop owners for whatever it is they're offering and getting people to stop and getting locals to shop here and not elsewhere. So pass that along. We appreciate that and how much it benefits all the citizenry.
That is interesting. I feel like some business owners might say that their sales have gone down in the past few years, so.
And it's not a litmus test for our businesses because we do get the online sales tax now, so it could be an increase as well of people ordering online more and having it dropped here. So there's, yeah, and until we were able to finally, until the Department of Revenue, I would say, is actually able to do local versus remote in a way that reflects just Silverton and not the state of Colorado as local, then it's hard to tell exactly where that's coming from.
And that's a very good point. When COVID hit, a lot of places expected sales tax to drop significantly, and they didn't. And it was because of either the big box stores or all of the online purchases, the Amazons and whatnot, kept the sales tax numbers up for the municipalities, but it didn't do much for the local store owners and the local businesses.
But it is interesting, Jim, your point of compared to maybe our neighbors along the I-70 corridor, they also are collecting online sales taxes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's still, again, our sales tax numbers are not a direct litmus for our local businesses and local economy, but just to know that as a municipality, our sales tax revenue trends have been better than some other neighbors is interesting.
Yeah, I think that really is interesting.
Well, that's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions now or later, if you have them crop up, so. I don't know.
I just want to say thank you. This was super helpful and thank you to staff. I know doing an audit is never easy. So I just appreciate how efficient everybody's gotten. I know we've done a lot of it over the years. So thanks to Melina and Gloria and Val at the front office. And I guess what, it's so much in here. And so I feel like I have questions or I'm going to have questions is I realize that what I heard you say, Jim, is that you'd prefer not to present this to the public until it's the final. But I also wonder if in next year, like getting it a little bit beforehand, I'm a person that likes to see the numbers before so I can know what questions I might have. So is that possible? Because there is a lot in here.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah. Even if we can't put it in the packet until it's final or something. I think I heard you loud and clear on we have more work to do with our spend, which is, I really appreciate this board being so intentional about taking that seriously. And I know previous boards have as well. It's not an easy position to be in. Welcome, John. You got a lot of fun ahead of you. Love that your first meeting is the auditor's report. We're glad you're here. I had a question, something that stood out to me was on page. I'll find it, I circled it. It was on page Roman numerals 4, and it was talking about our governmental activities. And the operating capital grants, and then the public works expenses increased by 416,708 in 2024. And I was curious if we're explaining any of that increase due to the catchment system project we started or just overall operating costs and expenses?
What number are you looking at?
So on the bottom of Roman numeral 4, it's the public works expenses increased by 416,000.
Right. So that's your streets and roads and that type of stuff.
Do we have the detail on that? I don't have it in front of my memory. But we could get back to you on those.
Yeah, so that was one of the questions I raised in my.
This morning, yeah, right, yeah.
So we have more maintenance. That's where it usually comes up because you're not hiring more people.
Well, we hired one more position, but I couldn't figure out where the rest of that is coming from. We had a grant in our water and sewer, but those are different funds. So this is just for the general fund. So that's where I was somewhere
Yeah.
that came from.
You had the same question I did.
I did, yes.
Not shocking. Yeah. That number just stood out to me, because it just seemed like a disproportionate increase. It seemed a little off. And then I'm looking at, I think something that might stand out to the public as well. So maybe we could talk about it a little bit more is on that same page at the top, charges for services. In 2024, we have around 1 million, and in 2023, it's 305,000.
Yeah, I think I can answer that one. Seeing down at the bottom of the revenues in 2023, there were $846,000 shown as miscellaneous revenue. And this year I did try to get more of those sorted in a different way. And Jim accommodated by moving them to the actual spots that they're more customarily seen. So miscellaneous went way down to 55,000, and all of those charges that had been thrown there before got put where they really.
Gotcha. Yeah. So it's really more reflective of accounting practice as a
Classification.
reclassification as opposed to.
Well, it wasn't the way we accounted, it was the way it was reported in past year's audits.
Yeah. That's helpful because that number is just like, wow, what's, and as a community, people like to talk a lot about admin fees. Well, why are we charging so much to those funds when those funds are getting depleted? It's like, well, because that's what it costs on those things. But
Last year was your first audit that we were involved with?
Yeah.
So my approach when I take on a new client is to kind of do projects each year.
Yeah.
And this year I really dove into those revenues and of getting them reported in the audit where they would logically go.
yeah, that's helpful. Thank you. Other questions from the board? I wondered when you looked at the expenditures by category, I mean, this is kind of giving your professional opinion, but like, our percentages of what we're spending money on, is this typical for a community of our size? Is that something you would comment on page, especially the pie chart on page 7, Roman numeral 7? When you look at expenditures by category for general fund?
Yes, I would say yes.
Yeah.
Usually it's admin, public safety and public works.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what your general government is, your administration. Public safety, you have a little lower here than a lot of places do.
Mm-hmm.
And then your public works is what I would expect.
Yeah.
And that's just, I assume that's just because of the like intergovernmental agreement between the county.
We don't pay for the insurance for a police department, which is usually what skyrockets everything. And so we don't even pay for that in our intergovernmental agreement. The county takes on the insurance and then we help with the operations 60/40.
And that's probably what I've seen the bigger differences are from city to city and town to town is how much of the police department is the municipality actually funding? Do they have their own fully supported on itself? Or are they relying on the county and the sheriff's department for vehicles, policemen, insurance? So that varies from municipality to municipality, depending upon that. The other thing I would notice, and this kind of goes along with this whole theme of Lorraine's, and I just had this conversation with another municipality last week. If you look at the total cash on hand in the general fund, your annual expenses in your general fund, you're at about 26%. I've seen that as high as 75% to 100%. It's probably a little high. But so that's, you might look at some of the surrounding municipalities. Everybody's supposed to have their financial statements on their websites. How much is the cash on hand at the end of the year as a percent of the annual expenditures? And I think you said it very well. You've got about 2 months worth of expenditures in cash on hand. I wouldn't suggest you go to 75% to 100% of expenditures, but getting that number up so you have that quote rainy day fund. Doesn't happen overnight. Takes a number of years of building up with small bricks, if you will. But it's not uncommon to see cash on hand more closer to 50% of annual expense. I think that's probably what you'd see is
Yeah.
in a lot of other places as well.
And-
That goes to that whole theme of what Lorraine's talking about is your budgetary process.
Mhm. And when you're saying cash on hand, that's how we talk about reserves. Right? Yeah. And our financial policy is 25%. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're not quite there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's your minimum in your financial policy.
Mhm. And our debt service feels, you don't look at this pie chart and say, oh my gosh, this seems pretty out of whack in terms of expenses by category.
I would not say your debt service is high at all.
Mhm.
There are other places that have significant
We haven't
higher.
built our sewer, we haven't built
Yeah.
a sewer treatment plant yet, so.
For now.
Mhm.
I appreciate you just reminding us again about the water and sewer. It's just always really tough in the community, but
course.
a reminder for all of us. Yeah.
Well, you might want to strategize about that because it is almost a knee-jerk reaction when a utility goes up to feel like, oh, I can't afford this, but what's important? Heating your house? Getting water and having water and sewer facilities that work and that are reliable and getting the trash taken away and having food on the table. I mean, those are pretty basic needs and you've got 3 of those. So other things are luxuries compared to those. And if prices are going up on luxuries, people may be complaining about that too. But man, if your cable bill goes up, that's one thing. If you got to pay your water and sewer and trash bill first and your rent. Messaging.
So I think there's been a strategy we talked about in water and sewer of doing it incrementally, maybe like over throughout the year. So it seems like we'll have to do another fun update for especially this refuse and sewer. So have you seen other towns implement like an incremental type of strategy?
It depends on how far behind they are.
Yeah.
And so you've had to take big steps because you were not in a good place. And you've got big looming needs. They aren't 30 years away, they're 5 years away. So you can't be too incremental. It really is a serious current issue.
I think what I suspect is challenging for community members and board members or business owners is we might need to rip the Band-Aid off. And so the argument could be made that that we've all been paying less than we've needed to pay for a long time, but no one's been socking that away for the time when when you have to pay the piper for the actual cost. So that's what is so, I think, tricky and hard for people to swallow is you could tell them, hey, you've been getting a steal for 10 years. And they're like, yeah, but that money's not in my bank account. So.
It's reflected in our bank account.
Yeah, so it is reflected in their bank account.
Yeah.
Just spin it, not knowing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you guys done a rate study? All that?
Yeah.
Surrounding area or something? One thing that I would say, and you can help me answer this basically, though, you're asking about getting the numbers in advance and whatnot. We did not have any audit adjustments to the books and records. I don't know if Michelle had many adjustments closing the books.
Just the accruals and reversals.
Yeah, so
Few
basically
adjustments.
the month-to-month results, budget are very reliable.
Mhm.
So it isn't like you're getting monthly financial information in your board
Right.
packets.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden at the end of the year, a whole bunch of fixes got made.
Yeah.
So the month-to-month numbers that you're getting are reliable for getting you through the year.
Yeah.
And I think that's also important here.
Yeah, that's why we have the actuals in our packet for the public and for the board. So
Because we have been involved with some municipalities where we have some pretty substantial adjustments year in where the accounting has been, have errors in them that needed to be fixed. And that was not the case here.
yeah. I think what's nice about the audit report is it's, you know, it's finally all in one place, right? We have such a seasonal economy. We have such, you know, interesting components to how we pay some of our bills or receive some of our funds. And so I think having it all in one place and being able to digest it here is really good.
And that may be an answer to why your sales tax has not dropped, is you are seasonal, summer seasonal. So you're not as dependent upon the snowpack and the ski and the tourism in the winter months that can go up and down and all kinds of things like that. And summers are pretty much the same year in, year out. And so the tourist dollars coming in might be steady or maybe slightly increasing because you're not dependent upon the weather as much.
The weather's for our advantage. Everyone's like, it's too hot down there. I'll come here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We could just be catching up to all those other places too. I imagine when we were seeing no increases, they were seeing huge increases. And finally, they're like, oh, look, Silverton's not that bad. We're 10 years behind.
Yeah.
Coming out of COVID, some of us saw some huge spikes up.
Yeah.
Now they've come right back down.
Yeah.
Well, and those places might get more international travel, which could see a constriction, whereas we might not. I mean, the challenging part with our community is we're so small and so we're so vulnerable to a variety of things. So it's always interesting.
Yeah, the catastrophic event that I would see here, probably forced on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saw several of them coming down. A lot of smoke.
Any other questions from the board or the auditors before we move on? Or any comments from staff? Good. Great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for your interest.
Yes.
This is a great conversation. You guys had great questions. I'll go in front of some councils like this and not get a single question or feedback or anything like that. And the more you really take heart to these numbers and understand what's going on behind them, the better you all can do your job. And so I know you also appreciate you guys really wanting to get in behind the numbers and understand them. That's just fantastic.
And they act on our
Yeah.
advice and our.
Yeah.
As painful as it's been, it's a very.
They must.
I mean, auditors, yeah. The auditors.
We're going to dinner later, so.
School.
Yeah.
Okay, you.
Well, it's a thoughtful, we have a very thoughtful.
Oh, yeah. Wrong way. Yes. That's right.
Do you guys go to school together? What's happening?
He's a K-State guy, I'm a KU guy.
So we're gonna have a fight later.
Very close, yeah. And we're meeting here in Southwest Colorado.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for coming so much.
Great to see you all. Yeah, thank you. Bye, Gloria.
And again, I mean, we heard it from the auditors, but I want to echo it to this board. It hasn't been easy passing our 2025 budget, making the changes that we did. I think we all know that this is not the end. And so buckle up. I appreciate just the thoughtfulness that this board brings to some of these challenges, deferred maintenance, deferred changes that really affect us all. We all live here. This is our bank account. This is the town's bank account, this is the community's bank account.
And small progress from balancing our budget and making those changes. So every year we'll get a little bit of it.
It is incremental, I guess.
Okay, we're moving on to the additional agenda item of 7A. This is emergency ordinance 2025-11. And Jim, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And this will be, I'll make this quick and really here to answer any questions. It's really just to give you all a situation update just on what's going on in the Southwest region and then just why we're going into or suggesting going into stage 1 fire restrictions as of tonight. So that's what I'm here to talk about. So next slide, please. So right now, really, it's worsening fire danger, multiple active fires in the region, and the fire indices are all starting to essentially increase. I want to do modify that a little. The indices this week are actually looking really good for us. But with that, fire danger is still increasing overall. And the big thing that is really driving this decision is the number of fires regionally. People may have noticed last Thursday, there was a thunderstorm that moved through our area really quickly. It was early in the morning, a lot of lightning. That lightning actually started about 6 fires to the north of us. And that just shows kind of how dry the area is. One of those, most of the fires got put out really quickly. 2 of the fires are still really active. One of the fires got started in Black Canyon National Park and is still main concern. It's renamed the South Rim Fire, and that caused evacuation of the national park, expanded outside of the park boundaries, and caused evacuations within Montrose County. With that, the governor has actually declared a disaster in that area. So that is going to be an issue for quite a while. It's also caused some road closures and smoke issues, a lot of smoke issues. So regional fire issues are a big deal. I'll talk a little bit about the Deer Creek fire, but just I'll show a photo or a slide of just all the active fires. Weather outlook for this week, there's going to be just a lot of thunderstorm activity, which overall is good, but it's got plus and minus. Plus is the rain, minus is the lightning. So today we saw, of course, we're asking for a stage 1, and then of course it rains for a good hour, but that's perfect. It's like, we pulled a stage 1 card and then it rains, so that's what we're doing. But we do have to just watch out for the lightning. That's always the big, can be a big driver. So next slide, please. So this shows current regional fire activity. And then just to show, this shows actually the air assets that are being used. So South Rim and the Deer Creek fire, the 2 big ones. This is in Utah, Deer Creek fire, LaSalle, Utah. This is growing enough that it's going to cross over into Colorado. And this is also the one that produced a lot of smoke Thursday afternoon and into Friday morning. And it produced so much smoke that I issued a air quality alert. We were not in the state advisory, but I went ahead and issued a local advisory and then requested the state to include us in their advisory. So that's a big concern, always dealing with smoke. But this just gives you a regional picture, and this is from it's an app you can download just called Watch Duty. If you don't want to get fixated on stuff, don't download it. Like to see what's going on, it's a great tool. If things do pick up, we will suggest people use it because it really does give the general public a lot of great information. But we also want to emphasize not to get overly fixated on these things because you should just live your daily life. But this is important as elected officials just to know what's going on regionally. So next slide. And then on the regional level, that's what's going on. But on the national level, there are a lot of big wildfires. So we've already bumped up. There's 5 levels. And just essentially when we hit level 5, that means essentially every fire engine and every resource is out getting utilized. And then there's a competition for resources. So when we hit level 5, that's a big deal. Level 4 is a big deal. So we are at level 4 now. So that just shows that the system is currently getting stressed. So that's another factor of just saying, let's go into stage one. We don't want a wildfire. Like, so prevention is always the best plan. So that just gives you a picture of what's going on the national level. And then air quality is really important. This just shows another tool to use. This is from CDPHE website. I know this is hard to read, don't write it down, but if you want, I can email it. It just shows a regional satellite photo of specifically of smoke. This is from today, but this is actually the screenshot of Thursday, and this shows just how basically the smoke got stuck in the valley, so it was definitely in that unhealthy range. That's an app you can also download if you want, but it's an air quality app, just showing the air quality. So when we get into more issues, we do, between public health, OEM, we will notify the public on these issues and suggest precautions that people take. And next. And then just the two I mentioned, just Deer Creek fire. So causing, just, this will be a big issue for the South Rim fire, just showing how you can actually see it out of the park boundaries and just causing those kind of evacuation situation. And I think that's it. So really, stage one, we'll go into it. It's easy always to rescind. The other reason to do it is the BLM has already gone into stage one. The Forest Service has gone into stage one, lower elevations, but I talked with the forest supervisor and they're going into stage one at the upper elevations. So the whole county will be in stage one. So we're going to be all aligned. And then on tomorrow, the commissioners will also have a meeting, and the sheriff has ultimate jurisdiction. So sheriff is completely in alignment. Now, questions?
What's the quota we're doing though? Are they?
The plot is in stage one. I'm pretty sure, I actually haven't checked on Hinsdale, but I can't imagine that they're not, because they're essentially building mantras.
Yeah.
And San Miguel is they went into stage one prior to the fourth. Tell you that as well. So
I have a question. I'm just reading through the restrictions. It says no smoking except within an enclosed vehicle or building, a developed recreation site, or in a barren area free of vegetation. Just describe what a developed recreation site means. If someone's on Green Street and they're 25 feet away from a business, state law, can they smoke, or is that not permitted?
that is a good question. So yeah, read that again too.
Yeah, it says no smoking except within a closed vehicle or building, a developed recreation site, or in a barren area free of vegetation. Just a developed recreation site.
Yeah, that would be like area, but I don't even know.
It's like that. Okay.
Yeah, but there's smoking restrictions in many parts, but that would be
Barren enough for.
Area.
If someone's 25 feet away from the business, like it wouldn't be.
I had a question about, because it applies more to in town. I know some folks have chimeneas or they have solo stoves with spark arresters. They have the little fire pits with the great thing on top. So here it says building, maintaining, attending an open flame. Campfires are only allowed within an agency provided fire grate at developed recreation sites. So again, when applying this to the town, what information can we give the public on? Can you use your backyard metal fire pit that's contained, or are we saying no open fires?
Yeah, that is open to interpretation and within town kind of what town would like to do. Honestly, so we haven't really, I think, teased those pieces out. I, um, I personally, my personal recommendation is that just to keep it consistent, we just essentially pull it out. I think for fire safety right now, it just sends a consistent message that it's like, let's just lay off the fires.
Yeah, no one's having their backyard fire even if
Yeah.
they're great.
Because honestly, if you go into my backyard, the grass is crispy. After the rain, this afternoon, I walked out and it's like the rain didn't do anything.
Yeah.
It's like the vegetation flooded it all.
So we should encourage residents to understand this to mean that it's really only at a provided fire grade at a developed recreation site. So this is at like established campgrounds where there's a fire grade.
That's my personal recommendation. As a town board, you could,
Yeah.
you know,
Change it.
modify it.
What's from the board on that? Yeah, Jim?
I know in the past that when we implemented some of these within town limits, that we were a little bit lenient to residents due to the fact that you fall under the fire suppression grid. That's to the items around town. I don't know if we want to do that now. I know in the past, obviously you have your fire hydrants there, but also you have your hose to whatnot attached to your house.
It's past what you're trying to do. It's like, if you have a circle, if you have the cover that goes over the circle, so for your fire pit.
Yeah, and I'm gonna, honestly, I'll let you as a town board, wrestle that. Cause I think I'm just making the recommendation, just,
Saying the sounds out.
No, can we pause this? Yeah, sure. And Jim, is it not until stage 2 that we would go to barbecue grills and all that kind of stuff?
right, stage 2 is really the most restrictive. Yeah. And stage 2 also, that is just as my perspective, we're really far away from, stage 2 restrictions.
Okay, so a question for the board. When we're talking about building, maintaining, attending an open flame when it comes to the town, would we like to permit fire, what's the word? Chimeneas, fire pits, et cetera, with spark arresters, or we would like to keep this as it's only happening in campgrounds with established fire pits, rings?
I think some of the issues we had in the past is even though this person would see a fire, they'd call it in and then
Mhm.
Bruce or whoever would have to come check it out and
Mhm.
make a determination. And I don't recall what restriction we were, 1 or 2, but Bruce really wasn't even wanting any kind of fire at all,
Mhm.
which was causing him, otherwise he'd have to come out and check things.
It's, to Jim's point, it's kind of confusing.
Yeah,
Someone's like, well, I have a spark arrestor on it, and they're like, what are you talking about?
I guess that what's the difference between like, you know, an established ring and like a chimenea? Like they're like very similar in what kind of material could come out of that to
Mhm.
start a fire, right?
Mhm.
Not like, it wouldn't escape, but it could.
Mhm.
It's the spark, it's the,
Mhm.
what am I trying to say? You know,
The ember. the
thank
spark,
you,
yeah.
Amber, yeah. Be a problem?
yeah, so it is teasing out between, say what the Forest Service is doing, so like an established campground.
Yeah.
And when they have a ring, they're taking precautions that, the area is cleared out and it's not near a structure. So that would be, my concern, and then it is also addressing law enforcement, issues where they're having to, kind of track down these issues when people are having fires and then dealing with that.
Yeah. What's the like long-term forecast? Do you know like what the summer's gonna?
The monsoons it's just always kind of tricky to predict, but the monsoons, what they have predicted, it's a little bit like a 50-50. So it's,
I think you that.
I know.
Getting a job as a weatherman.
Good weather forecast.
Yeah, this week, by the end of the week, we're supposed to get a potentially good rain, but to be honest, it's gonna just be, it's gonna be a week by week.
Depends on the wind.
So what's the preference of the board to keep it?
I think the thing about the campground fire rings is if you see smoke coming from a campground, you probably assume they're in a fire ring. We don't have to worry about it. It's coming from somebody's backyard. You have no idea. You have to go check on it. And it creates more work for sheriff, fire department.
Mhm. I'm in favor of keeping it simple for the enforcement,
So being more restrictive.
being more restrictive with the like, always lens on the future of when do we need to remove or whatever. Yeah.
Agreed. Any other strong arguments differently? No? Okay, all right, so it sounds like keeping this kind of as is, we're not adding any nuanced language around fire pits and spark arresters and.
Okay. Did you want me to clarify it for town language or just to make it a little bit more clear?
I think as a resident, when I read this, it read to me that it applied, the agency part, it was just a slightly confusing. It was like, well, can I have my backyard fire pit or not? Like if it.
So what we've done in the past, and I just want to throw this out there, is we've done building and maintaining and tending open flame, including campfire, stove fire, charcoal grills and barbecues, coal and wood burning stoves and devices using liquid fuels such as white gas or kerosene, open flame fire pits, strictly prohibited. Even if equipment equipped with shutoff valve. This is for a stage 1 in the past. And then exceptions are stoves, grills, or lanterns using pressurized gas canisters that include shutoff valves or within a closed vehicle or building, and commercial operations where there is a 10-foot radius of non-flammable materials.
That language to me feels like it gets more at.
Yeah.
Can we pass this with the amendment that we include the edit to be? That we include the edit that Gloria specified?
With administrative edits.
Yep. Administrative edits. That,
And I haven't published this in the packet yet because it's an emergency ordinance, so this would be published with that edit tomorrow.
does that work? Sound good to everybody? Okay, great. So we need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-11, an emergency ordinance establishing stage 1 municipal fire restrictions.
Second.
With the administrative edits.
Second.
Yeah. Roll call please, Melina.
Alverson? Yes. Mr. Wakefield?
Yes.
Trustee Schnitker?
Yes.
Mr. Gardner?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
And Pro Tem Harper?
Yes.
Or Cranker?
Yes. Great, thanks, Jim.
All right, thank you all.
Thanks, Jim. All right, we're moving to agenda item 7. This is now 7B, fee waiver request, temporary use permit applicant Silverton Farmers Market.
Hey, so the town received a temporary use permit application for the Silverton Farmers Market, along with a request for a fee waiver. So per Silverton Municipal Code, farmers markets are considered a temporary use and therefore require a temporary use permit. The temporary use permit fee is $500 according to the 2025 fee schedule. And all required application materials were submitted and the application was approved. And we have Kim Grant, who is the applicant, with us. And fee waivers may be requested by applicants if they believe that the proposed activity addresses an identified community need. And so those community needs identified by the applicant were improving access to healthy organic food, addressing barriers including financial hardship and transportation limitations, making it difficult to obtain fresh food, creating space where people from all walks of life, despite differing opinions, can come together to share in values of health, community, and connection. And then the master plan identifies a key priority to support creative industries, small businesses, and other entrepreneurial efforts. That's a key priority for the section on strengthening our local economy. So the impact of the budget would be a $500 loss in revenue for the planning department for the application review fee. And so we are looking for a motion to either approve or deny, or you can continue the review. And then additionally, there was also a request to waive all future fees associated with the Silverton Farmers Market for the same reasons listed in the fee waiver request. So then they're also seeking direction on how to handle future fee waiver requests related to the Silverton Farmers Market.
Thanks, Lucy. Discussion, questions from the board?
Just a question for local vendors, like, at markets, now we did waive those fees for them, right?
The vendor fees,
Oh, for like the Kendall.
Yeah,
market,
for
mistletoe
Christmas.
market.
Yeah.
That's
Bazaar.
That is correct, right?
no longer charge vendor fees.
Yeah. So I would lean towards waiving these as well.
I mean, we didn't waive the fee previously, but we,
Financially supported them.
but then we supported them, so it was basically a. free money.
Well, and previously, did we charge a special use fee?
In the past, we've not charged, we've not had a mechanism to
Yeah.
permit
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
events unless they were considered special events.
Right.
So this was kind of these temporary uses were an area that we identified during the land use code update that we needed to, make sure we were having record for those.
Yeah.
So that's part of the reason why we created the temporary use permit. And then with all permit applications, there is an associated fee. And so we established an associated fee for those.
Yeah.
So that is correct. This would be probably first.
Anew.
Yeah, this is new.
Well, and it raises the point of, we weren't able to do our mini grants for a variety of nonprofits this year and fees have increased. And so I think this raises maybe, we're gonna have to deal with this one in front of us, but the suggestion I would make to the board is just like lots of things in our land use code, we're all working out what this actually means and how does it play out? And when an application comes before us, we think, oh, what did that mean? And I appreciate the intent in the master plan. And I remember being a part of these conversations where the idea was like, let's make it easier for the little person to do the thing. Let's not make it hard to do the event, to run the fun run, to, schedule the Halloween parade, to set up a farmer's market, to have a food truck. So I'm just curious if it's possible that we're putting a few too many barriers in front of our smaller enterprises that maybe we want to reevaluate. I think I like what you were saying, Lucy, that like, it feels to me like administratively, just to protect the public health, safety and welfare of the community, like a permitting process feels kind of appropriate so that we kind of know what's happening on our streets and on the lands and in our town. But making the forms too burdensome, the renewals burdensome, or the fees, again, even to the farmer's market, I mean, $500 is not nothing. And I think they've really gone through a lot of efforts to take SNAP and have different benefits to the community. And I just think of some of the stuff in Harmony Park, like, let's make all those things easier to do would be my philosophy, but I'm just speaking from my opinion. And so I don't have a problem waiving this fee, but it also makes me wonder, well, are there other enterprises like this that don't necessarily know they can ask for a fee waiver or haven't taken advantage of this opportunity?
Am I allowed to say something?
Yeah, we can invite Kimmy, questions.
Just in response to what you said, thank you for taking the time. I think part of it too was to fill out this form, and the amount of conversations I've had with Lucy and Gloria and Sarah and like everybody, like we're all really busy and we have a lot going on. I don't mind like filling out, like paperwork is great and knowing what's going on. But what was interesting to me was that in the temporary use permit, it seemed, the way that I read it as a person from the public, is that if it's a farm stand, a farmer's market, or a farm or a food truck, when a business, that those are the people that need to apply for a temporary use permit. I didn't see any other types of businesses specified in that part of the code. And I think that, I kind of lost my train of thought because I didn't think I was going to have to speak, is that I don't think there are other people that are going to have to ask to get those fees waived. I don't mind paying like a $25 or a $50, like administrative fee. And I think it's a great idea to have that, to have the record of it and everything. But it seems like I understand that if there's a business, like let's say the hotel where I'm currently doing it at the Wyman Courtyard, that hotel is being used for something different. So there needs to be a permit for that. But under what I believe reading this as just a public member, and I've read it over and over again, that if I had a cousin that was in a famous band and Haley wanted to have, or the owner of the Wyman I wanted to have the band play there and I wanted to charge $100 a person to get in there. I'm pretty sure that under this temporary use permit code, that could happen with nothing. And then that's a profit going for someone making a profit. Whereas just a nonprofit organization like myself, this has been a labor of love project that I've done for 10 years now. And thanks for all the support I've gotten from all the town boards over all these years. I've stood here many times. And so maybe it's in light of, so that why I stood up here and why I wanted to answer your question was, in the future, are the other people going to be like, well, what about me? What about me? What about me? I don't know, maybe just off the top of my head, the nonprofit organization, like I used to, thankfully get a lot of money from the town of Silverton through the grants for nonprofits. And that helped me hire an employee to work for me. And this year I'm just doing it all myself, which is fun because I love it. But maybe it's a nonprofit type thing instead of, I understand the town needs to save the money and couldn't give the nonprofits. It was awesome to get it while we did. And I so appreciated it. It was magical. It's fine that it goes away. Maybe it's a nonprofit type fee sort of thing that could be waived because I know you already do that at like a Nisi Park, and as a nonprofit, you get 6 days of a use at a place. I mean, and I'm going to go a little, maybe don't get upset, but like I tried to do it at a Nisi Park and it just became a nightmare. And the amount of trying to have the conversations and things, I just was like, wow, like I'm just trying to sell some lettuce to the town and I just can't take on this stress. And so in light of the town trying to earn some more money too, like make it easy to just like pay. Like I'd pay $500 or $250 to use the town stuff, but it's like, this is private property, so it's a little, and I get it. The whole town code thing is new and we're all trying to figure it out. So that was my whole thing. Like, let's work together to make it, like, I'm all about having it be really fair for everyone. And I'd pay $500 to use the town park, because I get that, or $250, I would probably still be standing here being like, can I have 50% off, or whatever, like, but to use town property, but it gets a little confusing that it was private property. And it was like, well, yeah, it makes sense that if you're going to use it for something other than what that private property is for, you should let the town know, or they need to approve that. But for it to just have to be those 3 specific things seemed a little bit confusing. So I think I've made all those points, and I totally appreciate you guys seeing this and taking the time, and I'm totally fine with you continuing it and trying to figure it out. And I'm honestly not attached to I'm happy to support the town and pay. I want our town to have money. I'm not attached to the $500. I am, but it's a nonprofit organization and we have that money in the bank account because of the 10 years of hard work that I put into it. And I want to support our town. I just am trying to make to raise a point that maybe got missed.
Well, I think this is a really great use case. So I think the question I'd ask the board is, what are we trying to do with the special use permit? Our intention. And this is great policies.
Temporary use.
The temporary use. When we have a policy, we should have an intention behind it. So what do we think our intention is with the temporary use permit.
I mean, procedurally to have them fill it out, I think is needed still. And perhaps just wait for that specific section.
Well, there's different, like some temporary use permits require more from the planning department than others. That's tough to like figure out how to price those. But there's also like different, difference between like a nonprofit doing it versus a for-profit, requiring a temporary use, whether making a profit or just providing a service. But I think some of them, there's like events versus non-events. Sorry.
It also seemed like there was a lot of talk about like, to me as just a citizen, I just was like, wait, is this talking about people like trying to set up getting contractors on their land so they can decide if they're going to put in a development? Like, it seemed like I was kind of mixed into that sort of thing too. And maybe I'm wrong, but it had something to do with like people making developments and stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, I get it. If you're going to develop some land for something and you need to set up like a temporary use, like camp, mobile home to run your business out of. It just seems really different to me than a farmer's market. I don't know, maybe I read it wrong, but like I said, I'm happy if you guys want to just take this to think on.
I mean, can we waive this specific fee and then, have a work session or revisit the code? Or do you want to do that now?
I think that would be fine staff direction, because I mean, otherwise we're kind of doing it all on the fly.
Yeah.
But I think it's also, if we can hear from other board members, if they feel like, no, this still, we did this in the land use code, this still feels like what we want to do, or do you feel like temporary use permits, we just want to, this is one of those things that come up that we said, hey, we're willing to revisit some of these decisions. Let's have a conversation when we have actual real people doing a real project in front of us.
I mean, I will tell you that this year alone, I think on Friday, there's going to be 12 vendors there and about 6 of them are coming from Durango, and they're going to like bring their families and they're going to bring their friends and they're coming here. And I think that I fully personally agree with like, let's let the little people do the little people things. That's going to bring in sales tax. I mean, if they had to pay to park, they would have to pay to park. No, like, it's going to bring in a lot of people. And I think like, but yeah, I like the whole idea of let the little people do the little people things but make it fair. And it does sound like it's kind of an on the fly type thing. And it does maybe seem like it might be worth going back to the table and thinking about it. And I am completely fine with $500 just staying in your bank account or whatever. And we can happy to like have in my letter, I want to be a part of this conversation. I do a lot of stuff in this town. I own several businesses and I have a lot of labor of love projects for this town because I'm passionate about this place. And so I just want to be a part of the conversation and help come up with like great solutions that don't pick one person that can do this or that. Like, I want everybody to like make it easy for all the little people to do the little things that are what make this community special. So I'm happy to just have you guys like think on it, and I'd love to be invited to some sort of meeting at another date or time or whatever. And even if it's later this fall or, like, I'm super amenable and I just am a solutions person. And that's why I'm here.
Thanks, Kim. I think this is a great thing to have in front of us. So one question I put to the board is, one, is there an argument against waiving this fee in front of us now? That's the decision point we have. And then 2, is there an interest in having either a work session or having this on one of our agenda items to kind of think about the temporary use permit and its application more broadly than just this one example, or put it on personnel and ordinance committee agenda, but then this body would be talking about it twice? And or does staff have any recommendation on kind of what this is bringing to light? How you see it play out?
I would say if you all want to discuss this, we are putting together that kind of evaluation of our land use code, and that would be an appropriate spot to put that. So,
Yep.
agenda item.
I'd like to waive this fee today then, and then, talk about this in the future later on.
Okay. Yeah, great.
Yes,
Agreement.
waiving the fee, and I don't think it's an urgent piece, but I think it's good for us to mark this as one of the things to discuss when we review this, so.
I think a small administrative fee would make a lot of sense too, if I could just,
Yeah.
it takes time.
Yeah.
Money.
Yeah. We'll always take money. Ron says we'll always take money.
$25.
We can talk about that too when we revisit it as well. I think
Yeah,
right now we'll just
yeah.
keep the fee as is and then.
Yeah. Because $500 could feel steep, but like it's still Lucy times.
Yeah.
Lucy, we value your time a lot.
Yes.
But maybe $500 is for this fee. Okay. Not for you, for this fee. So, let's see, in our packet, I think
Restriction.
well, no, there is a motion
Okay.
to, we have to approve the temporary use permit fee waiver request, if that's the intention. And then let me say one, it sounds like we're directing staff to add this to our land use code review. Yeah,
The list.
add it to the list, put it on the list.
Been added.
Okay, go ahead, Amy. Sorry, I thought you were right. Yep.
I'll move to approve the Silverton Farmers Market temporary use permit application fee waiver request and to discuss this in depth in the future.
Second. Great, roll call please, Melina?
Trustee Halverson?
Yes.
Trustee Wakefield? Trustee Schnicker?
Yes.
Trustee Gardner?
Yes.
Yes.
Pro Tem Harper?
Absolutely.
Mayor Cranker?
Yes. Thanks, Kim, for coming and
Thank you, Kim.
sharing your perspective. Keep coming. And your solutions focused attitude.
Thanks. I have more ideas. I'll talk to you later.
Now we just have to keep this from Jim.
Go tell Jim.
Just fine.
Okay, Lorraine's gonna be so disappointed. I know, right after this.
But Trotter. We're gonna do our best.
We're walking a fine line. Okay, we're moving on to agenda item. Speaking of walking on sidewalks, we're moving to agenda item 7B. This is the request for qualifications, professional engineering services for Flare Street Revitalization Project. Gloria and Steve, thanks.
Right.
Lucy?
Oh,
Great, and we also have.
Swimmer.
Yes.
Oh.
No, I just did that too.
It's so far, it's just far away.
Yeah, that's it. But I did get my new prescription. See it better.
Hello.
Hi, Tommy. Thank you for joining us. I know you've been off and on here with a couple of our meetings, so we appreciate moving forward together.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad to be here, and I'll be here for any questions y'all might have on the CDOT side of things. Thank you.
Great. Steve and Gloria, you want to take it away?
All right. So we've been awarded MMOF funds that will allow town to move forward with our TAP award without having to provide match out of town's budget. And so then being at that state, drafting in RFQ or request for qualifications for a design firm is where we are. I've worked with Tommy to utilize the CDOT sort of spec'd out RFQ form. Had a couple of additions to that form. In particular would be pulling from town of Silverton's RFQ form to insert local agency terms and conditions. And then I think within the project approach schedule, have specifics for sort of tailoring get requests to the Blair Street situation. Examples of work that has allowed municipalities to continue pursuit of funding, design that have allowed municipalities to implement their project in a phased manner,
And then have language that survey and preliminary plans have been drafted in CAD for town standards. Files are available upon request. And express your willingness to work with existing plans to utilize the efforts that have already been put forward. So those are real key takeaways. I think another piece, the evaluation will be determined on a qualifications based process only. It's tied to the Brooks Act and part of why we're not able to continue with SGM to have them develop their plans. I know that's a continued question of we're already there. So, and that was not the process used in selecting them to create what we have.
Got to jump through the administrative hoops. Thanks to staff for pursuing this. I know this was a project that the board really wanted to help make happen, but we didn't feel like we had, $200,000 of matching funds in our general fund. So this is a really, to me, this is a huge win and definitely took staff time to get here. So shout out to staff. Thanks to the Blair Street Association for hanging in there with us.
Amazing work.
Yeah. So I think a big question too I have is, are we feeling we'll move forward with what the kind of key stakeholders on Blair Street are hoping for within the design parameters of what we're looking at? Right.
Yes, utilizing the scoping letter from the TAP awards that hold much of the language and the general information about the project from that letter. With improvements to intersection of Blair Street, 12th Street, and then moving into the 12th Street block and the reduced scope, they utilize probably a larger scope, language of gutter, curb.
Yeah.
And added additional pieces of visioning of this space by stakeholders is a final product that displays features that will help tell the story and inspire further pursuit of the town's history. Also that lighting is identified as a key component to the revitalization of the space.
Seems like we really heard like flow of water, drainage there, delineation of the crosswalks. I mean, there is concrete there now. You can see that, but.
And we will do like outreach, but we do have parameters that we need to meet with CDOT. So some of those are like the ADA parameters.
Yeah.
But while we do have concrete there, that it's not ADA compliant, and so we will have to, we'll be able to engage with our stakeholders in our community on the project as a whole, but there are certain restraints that we'll have to meet in order to receive the funds of the grant.
Right, we get this money with specifications.
Correct.
Great.
My only question, because if I remember correctly, the TAP funding had some like timeline issues of like trying to make sure we meet a certain time to accept the CDOT funding. And so this timeline here on that page for the RFQ meets those deadlines and timelines, or okay.
Yes.
Is it a tight timeline? Is that why we're?
So the language in the award letter from the TAP funds is, please note, the project must be advertised for bids by July 1, 2026. Otherwise, the funds may be transferred to another TAP project to prevent loss of CDOT Region 5 funding. So it's kind of not a etched in stone thing, but a bit of a, kind of keep things moving.
Yeah. Okay. And we have Tommy here and you've been working with Tommy, and the intention is that Silverton should get and receive and spend these funds.
Yeah. Just want to make sure if we're putting out an RFQ and we're moving forward, we're on like a timeline to be able to meet the CDOT requirements. So just to make.
And that, Tommy, may be a question for you if you want to chime in here at all, but like, again, you can see that we're moving forward. We've pursued the matching funds. We have every intention of moving forward with the RFQ and the design and the construction. Is there any other guidance or comments that you wanted to provide for us regarding the timeline?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I guess first, congrats on the MMOF funds. That's awesome. and that will match the TAP funds. And that's just the perfect thing for y'all, I think. And I think we can move forward now with the RFQ. The other thing, the most updated TAP award does have the date as July 1st. Sorry, where is it? July 1st, 2027. So I believe that gives y'all some more time. Obviously, you just kind of want to pursue this project as fast as you can, really, and make use of the funds as quickly as you can, because as we all know, I think the construction funds won't go as far in a couple of years and things like that. So just little thing there.
Great, thank you. Really helpful. Thanks for working with us. We appreciate that. Good. So further questions on this project, or really the decision point is the RFQ, and if the board has any edits to the RFQ before it's released. No edits for me. Nope.
No.
Okay, well, page 106 has the motion language.
Well, I will make a motion to approve the RFQ as drafted.
Okay. Right, I mean, with this.
Amy and I
win, guys. Pretty quick. Okay, well, need a roll call, please?
Yes.
Wakefield? Yes.
Trustee Schnitger?
Yes.
Trustee Gardner?
Yes.
Trustee George?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harper?
Yes.
Rinker?
Yes. Our AI summary for our newsletter is going to overrepresent this side of the table.
I know, I need to move back over there.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Tommy. Thanks, everybody that's worked on this. I hope the Blair Street Association is excited.
Yeah, did we ring the bell?
So we did, we were able to meet with them and with Tommy to kind of talk through the grant award and what that means. So they are apprised of our award and ready to dive in as soon as we get our new designer.
This is very exciting. This has been on the table since before I joined the board. Like, I mean, this is a long time. People have talked to me about Blair Street sidewalks forever.
Yeah, we should ring the bell.
Yeah.
I mean, it's worthy of a bell, I think.
Yeah. All right, moving on to 7C, resolution 2025-17, a resolution of the town of Silverton authorizing the implementation of a fee schedule for non-resident use of the Silverton transfer station.
So this idea to use a QR system was actually presented by one of our locals trying to be helpful solutions. And since we already use Express Bill Pay for all of our other online billing, this should be pretty easy for us to implement. I've already been talking with them on how to build this new form. We should be able to create a QR code and then link all of it together with our accounting system. I did research and pulled from Pickens County landfill, Mineral County landfill, and the Erie County transfer station recycling station to try and come up with these fees that you see in front of you that I think would be fair. And if we can have the QR code posted at the transfer station and some of our high traffic areas around town, I think that this would be a really, really great way for our visitors to utilize our transfer station.
Great, thanks, Melina. This came out of Coffee with the Mayor. I'm telling you guys, you gotta come. I had a great conversation with Molly Barella. She had a lot of great suggestions. We chatted for a long time and this was a great idea. And so I think just crowdsourcing is really helpful. People have ideas and they have solutions. And so thanks to staff for implementing it, and just shout out to Molly. She has a lot of great background and experience and great idea.
Would this be in addition to the dumpsters currently at the visitors center in Whistle Stop?
Yeah, so this is, I mean, we are still waiting for a grant for a full-time attendant up there.
Yeah.
To be able to take money, but the larger issue is it's only open 2 days a week. So we might not capture everyone that wants to dump, but at least we'll capture those that want to dump on Wednesdays and Saturdays.
Yeah, I think it's great. And we figure they'll be able to use their receipt as their pass instead of having a tag. We'll just have one of our guys out there be aware of what's going on, just check to make sure that they're dumping what they've prepaid to drop off. And then, if we have any issues with it, we can always reassess, but I think that I think it'll work.
Great thing to test.
They're currently instructed to turn people away without a tag. So hopefully this will help with that, if they don't have a tag or receipt, then they can turn them away.
And there will be, the QR code will be predominant or accessible at the transfer station, right?
Yeah, that's out there for sure. And then you can also have it around town with information saying, hey, if you're visiting and you have a couple bags of trash that you want to take out there. And I did keep recycling free.
Mhm.
That seems to be a pretty strong trend with our neighboring communities to just encourage people to recycle in general.
Right.
And so if they're just wanting to drop off glass or cans, then I think that that's fine, that we can allow them to dump that for free.
Great. And can we also make sure we have the hours on that QR code sign? Just
Yep, we can give it.
again, Gloria's point, the real challenge is it's only open 2 days a week, but if you're here and ready to dump your trash on Wednesdays and Saturdays,
Yeah.
happy to take your money for it.
Whatever QR code I create, I can put all that information on there too, the hours and the days that they're open and some basic instructions on, hey, when you take this out there, please show them your receipt as your pass.
Great.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's good.
I think it's a great idea. Thanks for your work on it, staff, and thanks Molly for that idea and solution oriented.
Yes. It's like you're out of here.
Yeah. Thank you.
So we have 2 options here on page 121. We've given staff direction to proceed with the development of the QR code and online payment platform, but we do need a motion to approve the fee schedule.
Oh, guys are on winning.
Second.
Great. Tyler moved, Carl seconded. Roll call, please.
Trustee Albertson?
Yes.
Trustee Wakefield?
Yes.
Trustee Schenker?
Yes.
Trustee Gardner?
Yes.
Trustee George?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harper?
Yes.
Mayor Cranker?
Yes. Great, thank you. We don't have anything under agenda item 8. We're moving on to agenda item 9, committee reports. The July 8th Historic Preservation Committee work session, and we can share any updates on CML.
Great. Yeah, we had a work session for the Historic Preservation Committee to review the new land use code. We basically just went over how the new land use code and specifically the Secretary of Interior for building rehabilitation apply to the process of approving building modifications or new construction within the architect, no, what is it? The historic overlay district, historic district overlay. And it's all material that's within the land use code. And it was just a good opportunity for us to take a look at that in the context of the review process. And the big conversation was just around the fact that we kind of have 2 streams for a review process. For a minor review that's handled by town staff, for a major review that goes to the Historic Preservation Committee. And that's a decision-making body, but applicants can appeal to the whole board if they do not like the decision that was arrived at.
Thanks, Carl. Questions? Great. Okay. So Jim, Lindsay, and I got to go to the Colorado Municipal League Conference. It was great fun. We really geeked out on all of the municipal league activities. I think for me, I had 3 kind of takeaways that really hearing from cities and towns of all different sizes, we're all facing some similar challenges, right? Aging infrastructure with not a lot of money to pay for it. Affordability in our communities, right? So both like economic development and growth, but then affordability for housing. And then resiliency. So people talking about climate risk and wildfires, and then resiliency as far as just energy and costs and all of that. And so just learning from each other is helpful. And I think that's something I really took away, is appreciating what staff does, is really tapping into a network. And it reminded me that I, as a board member and a mayor, can also tap into that larger professional network. And it was great to go to some different sessions with just mayors, different council members, because we're all kind of in it together. So I also stood out to me that small and mighty Silverton were really ahead of many communities. Like when we go to things and they'd be talking about policies, laws, legislation, or grants to take advantage of, it's like, oh, we're already doing all of that. Great. Okay. So that was really encouraging. And then I think the biggest downer was the last session of the week, which we heard from one of our state representatives and some of the CML representatives that have their pulse on legislative policy at the federal level. And I think just a lot of in all honesty, really dire news for the type of support that communities like ours can receive for these big, important projects we have to do. And so that was really sobering. You know, I think we saw that with some of our microgrid projects, and we see housing funding shrinking, you know, state revolving loan fund, community development block, DOLA presented, and it was like, wow, all these great things that we take advantage for at DOLA are going to be going away. So I think that was just a real sobering reminder of the need to be really diligent with our own finances, trying to keep certain projects moving, but it's hard when these projects take 3 years to plan and the funding's there when you start it. And then now that you have your plan, there's not the funding to carry it through. So it's just sort of a reality check for all of us. That's just where we are. And we're going to have to get creative and things are going to get deferred and we'll have to pick some priorities. So that kind of stood out to me. Really. And also ways that we can advocate and tell the story, right? Tell the story of, okay, hey, sometimes this feels the effects of these federal policies and federal changes feel very obtuse, but actually on the ground, the story of what it means for communities like ours is really relevant, and all politics are local. And when we can tell that local story, I think it's helpful. So that stood out to me. Yeah, I know you, Jim, Julie.
I guess I'll go next.
Go for it.
Yeah.
One of the things that I took away were several big things. Well, one of them from speaking to neighboring communities and some that are equal in size or maybe a little bit bigger. Rifle, Fraser, Frederick, and Meeker, still better than Meeker. I want that on the record. Silverton does punch above its weight. We are, with regards to policy, personnel, we are beyond the curve. I really do believe that, after speaking to these other communities, and seeing what we've done to be more innovative, with regards, specifically to the finances. I think what we did here a year ago, anticipating the shift, seeing it happen and getting ahead of it, I think we set ourselves up, in a good position. So that was really good. One of the takeaways with the policies in one of the breakout sessions was with, and you took a photo of it, Breckenridge Town Attorney, Miss Ambrose, was with regards to short-term rentals and vacant properties. And short-term rentals was interesting, and I know that we've got a pretty good grasp on it. And I think we have it capped at 50. I think it's still there at 50 as far as the Airbnbs and all that stuff.
8 per zoning.
Correct.
But unlimited in the MU1.
One of the things that she talked about that was huge for Breckenridge, and this started 17, 18 years ago for them, was a vacancy tax or a fee on vacant homes. And it was something that Trustee Burma at the time had brought up, and no one was really willing to even have that discussion. I, for one, wasn't, until actually being a part of this little breakout session and seeing what it could do, and how it could benefit the community overall. A minimal fee can go a long way if you look at it on a town-wide scope. So I thought that was very interesting and something that I would like to look into.
Yeah.
On a town fiscal level.
Encourage long-term rentals as well.
Yeah, and that's a part of it.
Yeah.
That by doing these and putting these mechanisms in place, you're actually encouraging certain behaviors and discouraging others, and not doing this with my hands.
And it ties to what we heard in our audit about our Silverton Housing Authority Fund not having a revenue source.
Yeah. So that was a huge takeaway for me. That was just one highlight of many.
I also went to a really fun housing session. A lot of the sessions were fun, but I think this one was the one that found the most insightful. It was on like the missing middle in housing, which I know Anne has talked about, of, you know, not the like deed restricted low income or like the market rate, kind of like high market rate housing, was that missing middle. And best practices and what I learned is we did it. Like in our land use code, the way to encourage that missing middle housing is through, you know, the setbacks, the lot sizes, that increasing housing options, cutting, you know, the red tape, more like administrative decisions. And that was really reassuring because it was all these like front range communities being like, aren't we really great? And we're like, well, yeah, like we are.
They are.
We did it. We already did it. And so that was really great. And they also kind of were like, stick with it. It takes a long time for those missing middle housing pieces to kind of come together. To actually meet that need. It's not as easy as putting up, you know, some prefabs. So that happens. And then I also was reading something, Montana just did the exact same thing we did with their like Montana Miracle. That's the new thing. So that was a really great session I went to. And I think similar to Jim, I talked to a lot of I was like seeking out the communities that were similar to our size. Like we actually had a really good conversation with the mayor of Rifle, and I found the mayor of Cripple Creek, and like we just talked to all those kind of towns, and everyone had the like same challenges we did. And it was like, right, we can like learn from other communities, see what they're doing, get their perspective. And it was, of course, the ones that found the solutions were the ones that kind of came together with those solution-oriented ideas and conversations, and created good ideas. So it was just inspiring to be around with 1,200 other attendees across the state.
I think too, I was just so impressed, and like, it made me appreciate this board even that much more. I went to a session that was just mayors, and hearing some of the stories in that room of boards' behavior. You know, I think this job requires a lot of hours. You get a lot of criticism, right? It's hard to live in a small community like this and serve on a board like this. But coming back from that, I just, again, wanted to really express appreciation for all of you board members, because it takes a lot of work to do this job, especially in a small community. But this board has tackled so many things with grace, with, you know, just a great attitude to each other, to community members. And I think we owe a lot of that to staff as well. But I just think the tone and the intentionality that's been set by this board has been really remarkable, and something to not take for granted, really. Because you can have boards where 3, 4, gets really interesting often. And a lot of dysfunction and stories of people playing like the entire score from Man of La Mancha for a whole meeting to derail any discussion and whatever. So, yeah, it was really insightful and made me really appreciate all of you as colleagues. So
Appreciation, Jim and Dana too. We like divided and conquered. We like made a plan about which sessions we were going to go to be able to like bring back the most value for the town. And I really feel like we did that. Plus, Dan and I got to do a 5 mile or a 5K.
5 mile?
There's Mary Hill.
We made a friend. Yes.
Thanks for going, guys.
But the town of Breck did not mark their race course very well. And
yeah, we got lost.
Yeah, it's great fun. So thanks for sending us.
It's fun.
Everybody should go, at least once.
Thanks for sharing.
Now we've had 4 of you go.
Yes, highly represented there. We ran into the mayor of Ridgeway, who's been the mayor for 25 years.
John.
Wow.
Yes.
There are no term limits there. It's like, wow, John, he's
in it.
impressive. All right, moving on to open discussion. This is agenda item 10. Anything else people want to add to the list?
I just wanted to note that our town county meeting date is August 20th at 5 p.m. So that's a Wednesday, August 20th at 5 p.m.
I had one comment. I've been watching what's happening in Texas with the floods, and it's horrible. And I have family in Kerrville, and so it's really, really tough. But what I saw there was a lot of kind of like local government stuff comes out of that. And I saw local governments sort of being resistant to federal funding or implementing these types of like warning systems. And I just want to show appreciation for Silverton that we've been really open and ready for those types of systems and processes. And we saw tonight, and it makes me grateful and, feel more safe in this community where we are also have, we have there could be something catastrophic happen here as well. So one thing to know.
Yeah.
It's all local, I think is really.
Right, any other things for the good of the order? I heard vacancy tax. The pin in it.
B.
B, vacancy fee, Tim. Vacancy fee. All right, well, now moving on to agenda item 11. This is our final public comment. We have nobody in person for in-person public comment, but if you're on Zoom and you'd like to make a public comment, please click the raise hand button and we'll promote you to panelist.
Hey, this is Melody. I want to say that I'm so grateful that the Blair Street project is moving forward after all of these years and all of the work the Blair Street people have put in on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other comment on Zoom? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment and we will adjourn the meeting. The time is 7:53. Thanks, everybody.